9. You've killed him, Cassandra Cottery stepped carefully over the broken glass and braced herself against what was left of the window frame. Look, he's just lying there. I tried to say I didn't mean to, but my chest was locked tight around my lungs. That guy is dead. There was a touch of awe in her voice. He's definitely dead. Against my better judgment, I looked down. Most of the space between Better Future and the road was occupied by a wide, healthy lawn, but it was bisected by a narrow concrete path, and on this lay the manager. I'm tempted to claim this as bad luck, but from the way his legs were bent over his head, it didn't matter. The contours took an unexpected step forward, as if they wanted to look at what they had done. I teetered. Charlie, Cassandra Cottery murmured. Her eyes didn't move from the manager's tiny broken body. You are in so very much trouble. The contours tensed. 4 sections contracted to 2 inches. I wasn't making them do this. It must be a fear reaction, my terrified brain barfing out static. But that's not what it felt like. It felt like they were making their own decisions. Behind me, someone gasped. The manager's beautiful assistant stood with one hand on the door handle, the other flying to her mouth. Her eyes shocked wide. What would happen next became clear. The alarm call, the security guards. My legs were right, I realized. They had figured this out before I had. I looked at the drop, took a deep breath, and jumped. As I fell through the air, the contours extended to their full length. The hooves splayed into 3 toes, maximizing their surface area. The Better Future lawn rushed at me. I closed my eyes. My spine tried to impale my skull. When I could see again, the contours were 3 feet long and had no hooves. I thought they had snapped. Then they began to re-extend, and I remembered this was what they did on impact, retracted to soak up deceleration. The hooves had sunk into the earth. I pulled one free, then the other, and shook off clods of soil. The manager lay a few yards away. He didn't look any better up close. I felt sick and angry because if the manager had some better parts, he would be fine right now. He would be walking around on machine legs, and I would not be in this situation. What kind of CEO organized a project to manufacture artificial parts and had none himself? It was ridiculous. I stared at his biological mess and was furious. It was not my finest moment. Ahead of me, the lobby door slid open. I thought, maybe it won't be guards, and was wrong. Then I thought, maybe they don't know it was me, and they drew their guns, and I thought, they won't shoot unless I run, and was wrong again. The first shot thumped into my left biceps. I felt not so much physical pain as an insult. I hadn't realized how deeply offensive it was to have someone deliberately injure you. I shouted, hey! My voice was thick with outrage. I was going to march up to this guard and explain I was a human being, darn it, with a brain and rights and an ID card, and you can't just shoot people, you can't just kill them, which was a little hypocritical given I was standing next to the manager's fold-up body. But that didn't occur to me. I was indignant about my violated biceps. The only thing that drove this plan from my mind was the realization that its bullet was not the last of today's insults, that more insults were heading my way unless I got out of there. So I did. My legs fired. My neck snapped back. Something passed my head so close it sucked hair into its wake. I grabbed at the sides of the bucket seat, afraid of falling out, which was more or less impossible, but that's not what it felt like. With each step, my legs stretched out before me, and my hooves drove into the lawn. They slipped on a slick patch of grass, and when we reached the sidewalk, I felt them settle. They liked concrete. We both did. I clung on, and cars and trees blurred past me until the security guards were far, far behind, and I was safe, and I realized I had left behind something important. I don't play the lottery. I don't care what my horoscope says. I think most things about the world could be improved if people thought more about what they were doing. But someone gets upset when their computer. I tend to side with the computer. I think art is overrated and bridges are underrated. In fact, I don't understand why bridges aren't art. It seems to me they're penalized for having a use. If I make a bridge that ends in midair, that's a sculpture, but put it between 2 landmasses and let it ferry 200,000 cars per day, that's infrastructure. That makes no sense. I mention this because what I did next was not completely logical, and I know that if I heard about this from somebody else, I would lose a little respect for that person. I would think, well, that's just stupid. But I would be failing to appreciate the difficulty of performing an emergency situational assessment from the middle of one. When someone shoots at you, your hypothalamus sends a lightning bolt into your neuroendocrine cells, which dump cortisol and adrenaline and norepinephrine into your bloodstream, and then you are no longer a very good decision-making machine. You are a quick decision-making machine. And I don't want to hide behind my biology, because at some point you have to take ownership of your neurochemistry, but I do want to point out that I didn't decide to go fight or flight, my body did. I slowed. I stopped. On the sidewalk ahead, an elderly Latino woman struggled along with bags of groceries. She saw my hooves and her eyes bulged. Diablo! Lola was back there. She had who knew what in your chest cavity. Cassandra Cottery said they were taking care of her, but that could be a lie. They had installed a device in Lola without her knowledge. Diablo, cried the woman. Maybe I should go to the police. Tell them there was a woman with a malfunctioning better heart she hadn't asked for. There had to be some kind of crime, and guards had shot at me, and that was wrong. The police could be on my side. I had metal legs, but they would get over that, and although I killed the manager, possibly from their point of view, I was a violent criminal. A better future already reported me. Diablo! Quiet, I said, because that was making it hard to think. My wounded biceps kept transitioning from comfortably numb to distractingly sore with hints of impending agony. I tried to concentrate. My legs shivered. That was weird. I didn't know that they could do that. I wish Lola was here. She would know what to do. It was my weakness. I could not predict people. Lola could. Maybe there was a back entrance, a way into better future, not protected by security guards with guns they weren't shy about using. I mentioned scanned floor plans. There wasn't. Diablo, the woman shrieked. She dropped her groceries and clasped her hands to her cheek. Diablo. Then what am I going back? I shouted. I wasn't angry with her. I was just emotional about my own likely death. The contours began to hammer the sidewalk, bearing me back toward Lola. I wasn't an idiot. I didn't approach from the front. Adjacent to Better Future was a small industrial plant. I positioned one hoof on its chain-link fence and pushed. The metal jangled and shrieked and tore from its frame. I ran between building-sized vats and emerged to discover not one but two fences between me and Better Future because neither company trusted the other. The Better Future fence was higher, stronger, and more likely to actually notify somebody upon being breached. I raised a hoof and tore down the first fence, crossed 8 feet of no man's land. I positioned the hoof against Better Future's fence. Every muscle in my body contracted. My teeth gouged my tongue. Farg, I said. I backed up, my nerves trembling. I didn't know why I hadn't realized it wouldn't be electrified. I was lucky my electronics were insulated, or this would have been a humiliating ending. I looked around for something helpful, like maybe a tall tree I could push over, but saw only struts and scaffolding and other excellent electrical conductors. I looked at the fence again, maybe 12 feet high. I could possibly jump that. I had never gone around to testing the contour's vertical leap capability under controlled conditions, but at one time they leaped to 60 feet in the air. I looked at the Better Future building. I concentrated on a patch of perfect grass on the other side of the fence. I thought, take me there. The legs settled. I tensed as if there were anything my muscles could do, and the legs sprang. My torso compressed like an accordion. I bit my tongue again. As I passed over the fence, I let go of the seat and flailed my arms in the air because my body still couldn't come to grips with the fact that it was attached to 2 tons of titanium. The contour slumped into soil. I rocked forward in the seat. I breathed. I was okay. That was actually not so bad. That was the least terrifying and physically damaging leap I had performed in the contour so far. I thought, I'm getting the hang of this, and I looked at the Better Future building. I thought, oh crap, the contours were not good on stairs. I wouldn't be able to run between floors. Why hadn't I fixed this? Why hadn't this occurred to me before? I was standing on the lawn. I could see what I thought was Lola's balcony and thought, jump, and are you crazy? It's like 50 feet. I began to walk toward the building, but without enthusiasm. I didn't know if I could do this. I couldn't think of any logical reason why not to, but it was incredibly high and would kill me if I got it wrong, and I thought, is that even the right balcony? I thought, I don't even know if she's in there. I stopped. I felt relief and then shame and thought, F it, I'll do it, and changed my mind again. Sweat trickled my ribs. My biceps throbbed. I thought, that needs medical attention. I should have seen it before to anything make it worse. Lola's balcony was high. It was really high. A Better Future hammer skidded around the corner, its engine screaming. Its tires tore up chunks of turf and spat them across the grass. I fishtailed one away, then another. Its grill centered on me. I stood frozen. Then I put up my hands. I did not want to get shot. The Hummer accelerated, and a part of my brain informed me that it was doing so beyond its need to reach me in a hurry. I ignored this information because surely that couldn't be right until it was incontrovertible and too late to address. This is an expression. When all you have in is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I had a hammer. I had a servo-magnetic lithium-powered titanium hammer. So when the hammer fell upon me, I kicked it. It went up on 2 wheels. The other passed my head. It sailed a drunken 20 meters, teetering on the beak, tipping over like it was in a circus, and I wobbled toward the Better Future building. I realized the driver faced 2 mutually exclusive objectives: to bring the car down onto 4 wheels, or to not run a ground floor meeting room. This was really an either-or decision, but the driver tried to accomplish both, and the Hummer hit the building at a 30-degree angle and disappeared halfway inside. Glass and brick dust burst across the lawn. Arguably, I deserve no credit for this. My input was limited to being very sure that I did not want to be run over. The contours took care of the rest, bracing of one leg against the ground, timing of the swing, delivery of the correct amount of force, but then again, that was my code. I had written it without this particular situation in mind, and the fact remained there were instructions. From this perspective, I deserved plenty of credit, even more than someone whose body had grown for them. So I looked up. I located Lola's balcony. I jumped. Glass flashed past my face. Wind pulled at my clothes. I squeezed shut my eyes and gritted my teeth and tried not to die. I felt like I might. The G-force eased, and I opened my eyes to see whether I was anywhere near where I needed to be to survive, and saw my hooves clear a balcony railing by 2 inches. I landed as gently as if I had stepped off the lowest rung of a ladder. I understood the physics, but still I sucked the air. I was alive. I looked at the contours, and had never felt so much in love for an object. The balcony door slid back. Charlie, Lola came out of the suite. I was on the right balcony. Special skills, I had them. She threw herself at me, inside through the side of the glass. I saw cats in lab coats everywhere, Jason and Mirka among them. I saw the nurse. They began to hastily empty the room. Did you feel it? I think it was an earthquake. That was me. Lola jumped over the balcony. How did you get there? Did you jump? Did you jump? We need to get out. What's that smoke? Lola, it's important we get out of here as fast as possible. Okay, she took my hand, the biological one. I knew you'd come back. I knew it after a glance at the suite. It had cleared out. Those darn cats. And then I realized I couldn't jump out of there. Not with Lola. The moment my legs touched the ground and I began to decelerate, Lola would weigh the equivalent of 2,000 pounds. Oh, we have a problem. What? Let's go. I can't hold you. Sure you can. She held out her arms. I'm little. When we land, you'll weigh as much as a car. To her expression, I added, That's not me. That's physics. I looked at my metal fingers. If I'd had the arms, this might have been doable. Are you bleeding? Oh, yes. I showed her my biceps. I got damaged. You mean injured? What did I say? You... She shook her head. What happened? They shot me. Who shot you? The company guards. No, yes. Why would they do that? Charlie, I kicked the CEO. Lola's eyebrows lifted. Oh, no. It was an accident. What kind of accident? I'll explain later. How badly hurt is he? They have some really good doctors here. Maybe he's dead. Oh, Charlie. I'm so sorry. I meant for upsetting Lola. The manager was still mad at. And now they want to kill you. I don't know. They shot at me. They must think you're dangerous. It's a misunderstanding. Should I try to talk to them? Lola frowned. What do you mean before? That was me. How did you make that smoke? I kicked a car. It tried to run me over. I had to kick it into the building. Oh, that's bad, isn't it? I think that's really bad. They're putting parts in people, military parts. They give you a military heart. A what? A military... What does that mean? What the F is a military heart? I don't... Something went dink. Was that the elevator? We have to get out of here, said Lola. Yes, pick me up and run. We can't do down the stairs. The contours aren't good on stairs. What does that mean? A bug, I guess. I haven't the chance to get through the software. What does that mean for us? That means we have to take the stairs. Okay, let's try to sneak down the elevators. The elevators won't work unless footsteps. Lola squeezed my hand. I felt the strange attractive force stir, trying to pull my fingers toward her chest. Charlie. It was a puzzle, I realized, like having a bag of corn. A chicken, a fox, and a boat that could bear only one object across the river at a time. I could jump out of here, but Lola couldn't. She couldn't open the stairwell doors, assuming security had locked everything down, but she could walk downstairs, which I couldn't. Can you stomp through the floor? What? It's reinforced concrete. Is that a no? Obviously it's a no. Don't look at me like that. I had it. It was simple. I could accompany Lola to a stairwell, kick open the door, jump down to ground level, re-enter the building, kick open the door at ground level, grab her, run away. It was a good plan, simple. It made a few assumptions about my likelihood of being shot, but it was a solution. I took her hand and entered the suite. A man appeared in the doorway, a guard, and I stood there, my plan forgotten because the guard was Carl. He looked different. At first I couldn't put my finger on it. I was distracted by other thoughts, like why was he here? And then thought he was gone, terminated one way or another, but there he was, walking the only exit that didn't require falling 80 feet. Hi, Carl. The light for the corridor made it hard to see his face. How are you? He didn't move. Lola peeked around at me. Still nothing. He was wearing a security uniform, although that looked different too. There had been a strange series of events. He said, I don't know which side of the story you heard, but... Carl stepped into the room. What was different about it became clear. I hadn't clicked earlier, because Carl had always been big, but not this big. Not so big he had to turn sideways to fit through a door. His arms were concealed beneath his uniform, but where his hands protruded from his sleeves there were thick blocks of gray metal. They looked like sledgehammers. I had never seen these before. Miss Shanks, Carl said, you were always very kind to me. His eyes moved to mine. In that moment it was clear to me that Carl knew I had asked Cassandra Cottery to get rid of him. In appreciation of that, he said, I will give you a head start. Carl's pant legs jutted in odd places when he stepped. Steel gleamed between his pants and boots. He did not have metal legs, but he had something on his legs, a kind of exoskeleton like scaffolding. It made sense. You couldn't wield titanium to a man's shoulders. It would crush him. But this annoyed me. An exoskeleton was a hack. It was laying technology on top of a broken system. It was a failure to address the root problem. Carl stopped at a service elevator and swiped his ID card. This was interesting because a moment ago Carl's hands had been blocks of stone. Now they just split into fingers, supple enough to grasp the tag. It seemed they could separate into at least 4 digits, then come together to deliver a punching force. That wasn't a bad idea for security guard hands. This will open the garage. Then you're on your own. I advise you to run. Lola and I shuffled inside. Lola said, Thank you, Carl. I'm not doing you a favor. I'm repaying a debt. Lola looked at me. I said, thank you, and I'm sorry. The elevator doors began to close. Carl raised a hand to block them. His fist was a block again. Pardon me, I'm sorry. For asking them to get rid of me? Is that what you mean? For having them take away my arms because you didn't want to share your parts? Is that what you're talking about? This time I spent a bed with a button to push with my foot when I needed someone to help me get through the bathroom. That? He lowered his arms. I heard the thin whine of servomagnetics. The elevator door began to close. Don't apologize, Carl said. I have my own parts now. Lola was silent as the elevator descended. I risked a glance at her. She stared straight ahead, her arms stiff. I said, Do you think this elevator really takes us to the garage, or is it a trap? Did you take Carl's arms away? I don't think it's best time to discuss this. Did you make them take away his arms? They weren't his arms, I said, but Lola's lips thinned to a dramatic slash. I decided to drop this argument. Let's talk later. I'm disappointed, Charlie. I felt bad. My tetrodotoxin had worked off. I knew it wasn't my top priority, but I wished Lola wouldn't be disappointed. The elevator thumped to a stop. The door seemed to take a long time to open. I held up my arms. Come here, her eyebrows dived like submarines. I need to carry you. The door slid apart. At first I couldn't see anything. There was too much contrast. The bright elevator, the dark garage, the brilliant rectangle where the ramp led to sunlight shine. I could have been wearing eyes, but the shouting was clear. I heard phrases like, "There he is, and take him." Lola jumped into my arms. I wrapped them around her and accelerated into the darkness. The contours punched the concrete like rifle shots. Lola slipped out of my grasp and slid around my side. I hadn't realized how much I'd adapted to the contours, how I leaned with them as they moved, how a tiny click near the hip meant they were about to jag, and I should compensate. These things were far more difficult with another human being in my arms. Lola's fingers clawed at me. I got hold of her, then the contour sidestepped a guard I hadn't even seen, and Lola yelped and slipped all the way back onto my back. Her legs locked around my waist, her arms gripped my neck in a chokehold. My eyes watered. There was a noise like a metal waterfall breaking on concrete that sounded like a spark gun, and I had seen the previous year's prototype demos, and I was pretty sure it was neither non-crippling nor non-lethal. We burst into sunlight. Lola bounced around to my front. The top of her skull popped me on the nose. We hit the road, clinging to each other like lovers who were very angry with each other. Safe, I willed the contours. Take me somewhere safe. At some point we stopped. Lola climbed off me slowly and painfully. I saw a leafy suburban street. It looked odd, like something from a TV show, and I realized why. I'd grown up here. The contours had brought me back to my childhood. "You got blood on your chin," said Lola. I wiped it with my sleeve. There was a lot. Most seemed to be from my biceps, where I had been shot. I knew this already, but felt shocked all over again. I shivered. It was cold and hot and dizzy. "I think I'm going into shock," I said. I didn't know how the technical definition, but this felt like it. Lola walked a few feet away and sat on the grass. She seemed to be watching her shoes. I put my arms around myself and squeezed. I wondered who lived in that house now. Maybe if I knocked on the door, they would invite me in for chocolate milk and let me watch TV or selfish, said Lola. I looked at her. That seemed unfair. I didn't think the idea was to be better than anyone else. I didn't think this was a competitive. I wondered what would happen to the contours if I fainted. They would probably just stand there with me slumped over. "Is it about getting revenge on jocks who were mean to you in high school? Is that what you're doing?" I squinted. It seemed odd to me that Lola would have such a wrong idea about me. She didn't seem to understand me as well as the contours did. "We were supposed to help people," Lola settled her shoes. The tetrodotoxin had definitely worn off. I decided to argue. It would be my first fight with this girl since elementary school. "I'm a prosthetist," said Lola. "I give parts to people. Just say you love Carl." Her head turned toward me. In the dusk, her face looked slightly unreal. "What? You love him? Him and his new arms? I love Carl?" "Shh," I said, which was going to be the start of something, but I forgot what. "What? Go and marry him, then. Are you crazy?" "None," I said. My head lulled. I felt dizzy. Something passed overhead, a bird or a spaceship. The world was getting heavy. It was darkening at the edges. I tried to calculate the chemical reactions of everything sloshing around in my veins, the adrenaline and beta blockers and analgesics, but the equations slipped away and merged with one another. Why did you get if you dissolved one chemical equation in another? It was a good question, Charlie, said Lola. I peered at her because her lips were moving but making no sound, that I realized they were, but I was listening to the wrong frequency in my head. I was lulled back in the contours, looking at the sky. Lola was trying to keep me upright. "Charlie!" "What?" I said. "We need to get you out to a hospital." She looked around. "Crap, not a hospital. They'll find us." "Who?" "The better future. The people who will kill us to cover up their illegal human trials of artificial body parts, remember?" "I need to sit down." "You are sitting down." I looked at the contours. That was right. "Charlie, stay with me." Somewhere a dog barked. Strands of Lola's brown hair floated on the breeze. "I know somewhere. A friend of the hospital. She lives near here." "A friend?" "Yeah, Charlie." "Charlie, what?" "You need to walk a little farther." I looked at her. I guessed our fight was over. Okay. We climbed the steps to a neat suburban house and stood on its darkened porch. Lola raised her head to ring the bell, then hesitated. "One thing, don't criticize her dogs." "Why would I criticize her dogs?" "I'm not saying you would, just don't." The logical inconsistency temporarily overwhelmed my pain and exhaustion. I was that kind of guy. "You must feel I would, otherwise why mention it? Forget it. Is something wrong with her dogs?" "No, but she loves them, and if you say something it will be awkward." "Okay, pain-raising. I won't mention the dogs. Do mention them. Just say nice thing." "I say she'll have very attractive dogs." "Don't say that. Sounds creepy." "What should I say, Lola? Tell me what to say." She rang the doorbell. "Say like their outfits." The yapping began. Lola had not mentioned how many dogs. Clearly there were many, and they were small. I could tell. The porch light flicked on. I was mildly shocked at Lola's appearance. Her eyes were sunk in shadows, her better future sweater stained with dust and blood. We would not make a great first impression. The door opened and a woman stood framed in the doorway in a satin set dressing gown, holding what I thought was a purse until it barked. Additional small dogs stood behind each of her ankles, barking. They were clad in little red and green tunics. The woman threw an arm around Lola. Lola burst into tears. Over Lola's shoulder, the woman took in my face, body, legs. I knew I realized it was Dr. Angelica. Austin, can we come in? And Dr. Angelica hesitated. She had tried to get me classified as a psych case. That seemed rich now that I knew she kept a house full of tiny, dressed dogs. Of course, she held open the door. For a moment I thought she was going to close it before I could follow Lola. Possibly she thought that as well, but her lips twitched and she let me pass. As I entered the hallway, a dog darted between my legs. I almost stood on it. I had to manually instruct the contours to halt. The dog was too small to trigger my automatic collision avoidance. I thought that could be a problem. Dr. Angelica closed the door. I shouldn't be surprised. The dog in her arms stared at me. I didn't know what it was thinking, but it was something. We're in trouble, Lola said. We need help. I closed my eyes. I was done. I saw the manager flying backward out of the window. His eyes stayed on me the whole time. Charlie, I opened my eyes. Cassandra Cottery was there, shoulder to shoulder with Lola. Sorry, I croaked. He goes in and out, said Lola. Cassandra Cottery nodded. It wasn't Cassandra Cottery. It was Dr. Angelica. They didn't look anything alike. Let me take a look at that arm. Don't take my arms. Dr. Angelica's deep brown eyes were like her dog's. They had similar expressions, too. Now I knew what that dog was thinking. This guy is trouble. I dipped in and out of consciousness. I became aware of Lola and Dr. Angelica unstitching me from the nerve interface as if receiving telegrams about it. It was data information. I warned you, said Dr. Angelica. I know, said Lola. This is exactly like that transtibial. It's not. He loves me. You don't know, Angelica. He risked his life for me. You're the first person to treat him like a human being since he lost a limb. Of course he loves you. They all love you at first. Let's not do this. I opened my eyes because there was a tugging sensation on my arm. Dr. Angelica was sewing up my skin with surgical thread. Lola stroked my hair. It's okay, Charlie. I was lying in her lap. She's fixing you. I closed my eyes. What's wrong with this guy? I doubt I can fix. Stop it. He's a self-injurer. I don't even want to release him. You don't understand. That's what you said the last time and the time before that. Don't stay. It's different. I've heard that before, too. I heard it before that footless wanderer tried to beat you to death with a chair. He had problems. It's always a man with something missing. It's always you trying to put him back together, and it always ends badly. Tell me, Lola. Look at me and tell me what attracted you to this guy. It was the fact that he had a leg. Okay, it was. Of course it was. But so what? Can't that turn into something else, something good? It's weird, Lola. I love you, but this thing you have for amputees, it's not good for you. You like guys with good arms. You're attracted to muscle fiber. Isn't that weird? Black pink guy because of his bone structure or the color of his eyes? Aren't those weird things? I love Charlie, and maybe when it started was weird, but it's all weird. The whole process of trying to find a person who fits you is weird. Why does he make a difference to how I feel about him? The sound of his voice, the shape of his face, I don't know, but I don't think there's a way for people to fall in love that isn't weird. A thin pain penetrated by my bubble world. Irk, I said, be careful with him. It's a scratch, said Dr. Angelica. The bullet barely nicked him, but she sounded mollified. I'm being gentle. Thank you, said Lola. 10. I woke happy. It was dark. I didn't know where I was, but I had come from the wonderful dream in which I held Lola close and was safe. I lay still, not wanting to disturb it, but reality filtered in, bringing complications like the fact that I was being pursued by a vengeful security guard with multi-function sledgehammer arms. Still, it wasn't so bad. All problems were insignificant compared to Lola saying I love him. With Lola, everything was solvable. She was my independent variable. On the ceiling above my head was a poster of a dinosaur. I turned my head. There were dinosaur pictures everywhere. In one corner, toy trucks overflowed from a basket. This was a kid's room. In fact, now that I looked at it, this was a small bed, very small. I raised my head. I was not wearing legs. My toes spasmed, my foot curled, my calves turned into screaming steel, and the fact that none of this was real made no difference. I threw back the covers and massaged the space where my shrieking muscles would be, but I knew it would do no good without the contours, and was right. Tears screamed from my eyes. When was the last time you took painkillers? My brain asked. 12 hours ago? 16? Everything will hurt much worse now. Legs, I screamed. I need my legs. Toast, said Lola. There's peanut butter. I could make you peanut butter toast. On TV, nurse with a remarkable cleavage stared out of a window. The handsome doctor behind her said she would never get away with this. What's that? Said Lola. Yes or no? Coffee. You've had enough coffee. She came out of the kitchen. I was standing on my contours in the middle of the living room watching TV. To make room, I had hoofed the sofa out of the way, and now sat against the wall occupied by 3 aggravated dogs. One wore a little faux leather jacket. I hoped the dog was not supposed to be Elvis. Why don't you have some water? I don't want water. The TV doctor wrapped the nurse in a passionate embrace. That was unexpected development. Lola came over. Charlie, I know you're coming down, but water will help. I gestured my bandaged arm. Will it help this? Angelica says that's a scratch. I think it's infected. Lola silent. Well, she can look at it again tonight. Dr. Angelica had gone to work. She would, allegedly, bring home painkillers. In the meantime, I had to survive the over-the-counter drugs. It was a major pharmacological decrease from my regular level of medication. Every gap in those dressed-up rats was a knife in my brain. I'll make you toast, said Lola, and bring water. She went into the kitchen. I didn't want to be irritable. It was my body punishing me for the lack of painkillers. Lola took your part, said my body. She took your legs while you were slipped. I ignored this. I was not going to get into debate with my body. I would give it what it wanted, but one day it would pay for this. Better Future was not the only research lab in the world. I would figure something out. This was not over, and I knew that was true because it had to be. Dr. Angelica arrived home at 6:18. Every muscle in my body was made of glass. My bowels were panicked, my nerves easily startled. I had nearly trodden on a tiny scampering dog so many times that I was ready to do it on purpose. They heard Dr. Angelica's approach before I did. They went into a barking frenzy, throwing themselves down the corridor and pounding the door. I had a moment of terror that maybe it was Carl. Dr. Angelica dropped to her knees and scooped as many as she could, laughing as they squirmed and licked her face. It was kind of disgraceful. I mean, I understand it's nice to see each other, but have some dignity. You don't need to roll over and expose your genitals. I don't know how anyone can appreciate devotion that slavish. It's not objective. I have a similar issue with religion. Dr. Angelica sat a bag on the floorboards. This one was those rare situations where the social rules were obvious. I should give Angelica a minute with her dogs before asking if that bag had painkillers in it. I waited silently at the end of the hall, not making anything of the fact that every organ in my body was weeping. Finally, she looked up. My teeth were chattering. Yes, please. You should have been tampering the drugs. Dr. Angelica drew the clear liquid from a vial. There's no reason to still be on such a high level. Who's your doctor at the company? I am. I smiled at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I was on high anticipation. My body and I were in the roller coaster car, ratcheting up the slope. That's not right. These are addictives. Addiction. That's what? Low levels of dopamine in the brain? Fixable. What? I can fix my brain. I trailed off, because Dr. Angelica was no longer looking like she was about to inject me. Are you? She moved to the bathroom door and shut it. She stood there. My brain began to suggest ways of getting the syringe out of her hand without breaking it. You're not done. You want to replace more parts with prostheses. I hesitated. I don't like the word prostheses. It implies a poor substitute. I'm improving. Did you know I can just think of a destination and these legs will take me there? I threw this in because Dr. Angelica, as a surgeon, was supposedly a woman of science. I didn't expect everyone to be on board for a totally artificial body, but pathfinding legs. Come on. Last night you woke screaming because you couldn't sleep without your prosthesis. That's not improvement. You're getting worse. My legs stepped forward. Dr. Angelica's eyes widened. So did mine, because I hadn't quite intended that. I had just been thinking about getting that syringe. The biological part of me is having trouble adjusting. I said, that's not an argument against technology. Dr. Angelica's arm moved. I thought, oh God, she was going to smash the syringe. Wait, I appreciate your concern, but this is my body. I can make my own decisions. I don't care about you. You can dice yourself into bite-sized pieces for all I care. I care about Lola. Well, Lola's fine. She's safe now. Is she? Yes, I was beginning to panic. That syringe was right there. What do you want me to say? I want you to say that Lola's perfect the way she is. I hesitated. Is anyone really perfect? You can't be mostly perfect. You can't be perfect some of the time. You are either perfect or not, and I don't think biology does perfect. Biology is about efficient approximation. It's about good enough. A vacuum is perfect. Pie is perfect. Life is not. But I saw this would be a tough sell to Angelica, who anyway was not really asking if I thought Lola was perfect, but rather biological perfect, that is good enough, and the answer to that was clear. Lola is perfect the way she is. You hesitated. What's to think about? You either want to cut her up or you don't. No, wait. I had to translate your definition of perfect. Medicine. They call it a science, but it was more like arts and crafts with Latin names. I don't want to cut up Lola. I don't believe you. You don't even understand what I'm doing. This isn't about cutting. Cutting is an unfortunate prerequisite for an enhancing functionality. Does Lola know you want to enhance her functionality? I don't want to enhance Lola. Bullcrap. Angelica raised the syringe. This time, I was sure she was going to smash it. My legs hiccuped forward. I swear to God, I can tell you're lying. I'm not. My legs took another step, a big one. Dr. Angelica backed up against the door. My legs were going to kick her. They were going to kick her right through the door. Wait, I yelped. Stop. There's no problem. I promise everything goes okay. I swear it. The legs did not move. I closed my eyes. Happy thoughts. I was relaxing, here in the bathroom by myself. I did not want to go anywhere. I did not want to move. Definitely not. Dr. Angelica sniffed. This was going to hurt me, losing control of my legs. I wasn't sure how to put a positive spin on that, but when I opened my eyes, her expression was softer. Well, she said, that was sincere at least. She looked at the syringe, then set it on the sink. Clean yourself up when you're done. You smell. She opened the bathroom door and left. It took me a moment to figure out. Dr. Angelica thought I'd been talking to her. They're asking everyone about you, said Dr. Angelica. She reached across the kitchen table and spared a potato. At the hospital, Lola froze, a forkful of lettuce halfway to her mouth. Who is? Better Future, said Dr. Angelica. They're all through the place, telling us to report any contact. I was not paying attention. I was talking to my legs. Hello, I said. Can you hear me? What did you tell them? Nothing. Lola glanced at me. I remembered I was supposed to be eating, and stabbed a carrot. What should we do? I already told you. Dr. Angelica bent down and scooped up a dog that was whining at her feet. Its bright eyes fixed me across the tablecloth. Go to the feds, say they're conducting illegal medical trials. That takes care of Better Future, I guarantee it. Give me a sign, a twitch, something. Dr. Angelica stroked her dog's ears. He'll be in trouble, but that's unavoidable. He killed a man. The point is to get the company off of your back. And they're the threat. You don't know what they're capable of. Get the authorities involved before they destroy evidence. While there's still something for the feds to confiscate, her eyes blinked at me. My right contour bounced up and hit the underside of the table. The setting jumped up an inch into the air and clattered back down. The dog bolted from Angelica's lap and took shelter in the doorway and stared balefully at me. "Charlie," said Lola. "Sorry," I said. "Yes, I'm fine." I stood in the bathroom brushing my teeth and looking at myself in the mirror. My legs were not conscious. That wasn't possible. I would believe they could think for themselves when I opened them up to find them powered by tiny elves. You didn't combine a bunch of inert materials and get personality, and yet something was going on. A glitch I hadn't anticipated. Lola came in, smiled, and fished around the sink for a toothbrush. Her hip brushed mine. She came up with a short blue one, eyed it, and squeezed toothpicks. "Did you know that there's a condition where you can find your own saliva disgusting?" She poked the toothbrush into her mouth and poked around it. "Imagine that." I said. "I had to schlee out of the sofa last night." She shook her head. "Schlee? Schlee." She angled the toothbrush and tilted her chin. A notion of toothpaste lodged inside her mouth. "Sleep." I felt a subtle, invisible tugging. She leaned forward and spat. "Let's pull that mattress off the Harrison beds. I can sleep next to you." Harrison was Angelica's son. He visited 2 weekends per month. Lola had told me this earlier, her eyes hot with outrage, before launching into a story about people I didn't know, doing things I was supposed to care about. I always have trouble with these kinds of stories because they contain no useful information. I was sorry to hear that Rod prioritized his own career over Dr. Angelica's, but I didn't know Rod. I didn't understand what I was supposed to do with that information. Maybe we can get to know each other. I went to spit into the sink, but the contours didn't move. They were rigid. I thought, tilt. Lola's fingers addressed a wrinkle on my shirt. "Come to bed." I thought whispered inside my brain. The legs don't like Lola. That was silly, but it felt available evidence. They're jealous. "Come." Lola's fingers found mine. She opened the door and peeked out into the corridor. I followed her to Angelica's kid's bedroom. Her back looked small and vulnerable, and I had the sudden thought that the contours were going to kick her. I stopped. Lola turned around and beckoned. I felt dismay. I had a lot of time thinking about going to bed with Lola, a lot of the time, but I did not want to kill her. "Come on, Charlie." She came back and pulled me into the bedroom and closed the door. Her arms snaked around my wrists. Her face tilted. "Just a minute," said Lola. She rose up to her toes, her lips seeking mine. I'm not sure our lips met. I forgot about self-aware legs. Or at least they seemed less relevant. The important thing was to get closer to Lola. Then I realized I was getting closer to Lola. The attractive force was rising, tugging my metal fingers toward her heart. Lola's eyes sprang open, her hands pushed against me. "Charlie!" For a second she couldn't separate herself, then she took 2 tumbling steps backward. Her chest rose and fell. "It's back!" I had 3 data points now. 1, in her suite when we first found ourselves alone. The second, when I had rescued her, and now. It happens when your heart rate increases. What? Lola clutched at her chest. "What does?" "Oh, wait, don't get scared. That will make it worse. What is it doing?" "Try to think about something else. How about those dogs of Angelica's? They're so cute." At this moment they all began howling. A set of paws came scampering up the corridor, baying. "Those useless fur sacks. Okay, let's think about this. It's a bomb. Oh, God, they put a bomb in me." "Maybe," I said. Lola blanched. "No, that wouldn't be cost-effective." "What?" I had to raise my voice to be heard over the dogs. "You want to blow something up? It's the best way to do it. Really, to go out the trouble of surgically installing—" "It's shaking," Lola's teeth chattered. I became aware of a tone, a whine so high-pitched that it was only just entering my detectable range. That explained the dogs. "Charlie, I think you should run. We need to lower your heart rate, concentrating on putting yourself in a calm state." "I can't." "You can, Lola. Control your body. Run, Charlie." The whine became so loud it was difficult to hear anything else. "I'm not running. What we have together is a technical problem, and we can solve it together." There was more to this sentence. I was going to say that we were 2 rational people and logic could move mountains. This would either reassure Lola or bore her. Either way would reduce her heart rate. I still think this was a good idea, but before I could get it out, Lola exploded. Something blew through me in a gust, like a wind made of needles. My legs twitched, my ears rang. The house fell silent. I looked at Lola, and she looked at me, and we both seemed okay. Lola said, "Are you?" And so did I. She took a step forward, and nothing had happened. We smiled. Lola fell into my arms. That was scary. What was it? Something that didn't work, I guess. "I thought we were going to die," she shuddered. "I thought I was going to kill you." A moment passed. There was an odd scent in the air, something acrid. Lola looked up. The dogs are quiet. We listened. Lola reached for the door handle. I went to step out of the way, but didn't. I tried that again. "Charlie?" The scent was familiar. It was what you got when you plugged a circuit into a power supply and it wasn't designed for. The smell of fused transistors. The digital clock radio on the bedside table had gone dark. On the shelf, a small stereo that normally glowed red from a power button. Nothing. "Are you okay?" Angelica's voice floated toward us. "The power is out." "No," I said. "No, no, no." Lola touched my arm. "What is it?" I opened my mouth and closed it again. "Are you hurt?" "Yes, yes. Where?" "My legs. Your EMP, electromagnetic pulse." "What does that mean?" "You killed my legs," I said. "There are 5 stages of grief. The first is denial. For example, my legs can't be dead. They can't be. Next is anger. You killed my legs. Get out. Get your hands off me, etc. There's some screaming and raging in this stage, some unfair accusations, tears and bruised feelings, then bargaining quieter. "Just let the battery be all right. Please let the battery be functional." Fourth, depression. "They're dead. I'm dead." This is a kind of wallowing, a shutdown, a final stage of acceptance, and include no example because I was a long, long way from acceptance. On the fourth day, Lola entered my room. Until then, she had been leaving trays of food outside. I learned to wait until her footsteps receded, pull myself to the door, and drag the food in before the dogs descended. But this day she opened the door. She wore a green blouse and an air of quiet mystery. I was on the carpet, surrounded by my parts of my parts. I had disassembled them and arranged the pieces in concentric circles. It looked as if I had suffered the world's neatest explosion, which I had. What had come out of Lola had killed no one, disturbed nothing, hurt nobody but mine. I think she said they were disassembled components. They didn't mean I was fixing them. I had taken the contours apart because I couldn't think of anything else. I was trying to break my problem down until I reached something fixable. That was how you solved anything. You divided it. Lola said, I think it's unfair to act like this is my fault. It's not your fault. I did not look at her as I said this because I did not really believe it. They put it in me. She took a step forward and our foot landed beside a 3-foot long section of titanium that had once controlled plane stabilization. My issue was so many sections were machine welded. I couldn't open them with domestic tools. They put that thing in my chest and didn't even tell me. I almost didn't say it. You could have calmed down. I could have calmed down. Yes, Charlie, I tried. I picked up a radial bolt. I wasn't sure where this had come from. I had made notes in the beginning. I should have kept that up. My heart wouldn't slow down. People are very selective about their bodies, I told the bolt. Anytime their body does something good, they claim it. They say, I did this, but something goes wrong, and it's not I anymore. It's a problem with their foot, their skin. Suddenly it's not them anymore. It's the body they're stuck in. What are you saying? Nothing. I rolled the bolt around in my head. I'm just making an observation. Silence. The door closed with a click. I found a skateboard beneath the bed and heaved myself onto it. With one functional hand and one half-useless one, I could wobble along at extremely low speed. It was difficult and degrading, but I could do it. When I was sure nobody was around, I opened the door and edged into the corridor. Halfway to the bathroom, a dog trotted up and sat on the tiles. I knew it couldn't have helped me, but I wanted to, but it felt rude. I dragged myself to the bathroom and shut the door. My breathing was harsh and ragged. I had become incredibly unfit. I put my half hand onto the toilet seat and my full hand, my good hand now, on the nearby bench and strained. The muscles in my arm trembled like frightened girls. I flopped over the toilet seat. My lips kissed porcelain. I didn't care because at least it was progress. I wrestled myself upright. As I began to urinate, I felt proud. When I emerged, 3 dogs were sitting on the floor outside. They didn't look scared or curious. They were just there. Shoo! I pretended to lunge at them. One stood, looked at the other 2, sat down again as if faintly embarrassed. They were communicating telepathically. As individuals, they were stupid, but together they formed a single intelligence, a pack mind. And it was planning something. It was gathering observational data for later use. As I rolled toward my bedroom, I felt Dog's many eyes burning into my neck. I talked to my parts as I worked. For example, I would pick up a mirror plate and say, and what's your problem? Or when contemplating a radiation shield, you need an arc welder, that's what you need. They didn't answer. I wasn't crazy, it was just the way to focus, but sometimes I heard footsteps outside the door and realized this might not be obvious to anyone else. I regretted what I'd said to Lola. I told the contours that. She tried to calm down. This was late one night, after a frustrating few hours prying apart transistors. She didn't want you to die. Then I wrapped my arms around my chest and cried because I was really tired. The next day I decided to apologize. I would make things right. I didn't want to wallow here, filthy, stinking, grieving thing dragging itself around. I didn't want to make Lola sad. Then I sat up and parts of the contours fell everywhere. I'd slept with them to stave off phantom pain. Don't ask me why that worked, it just did. I thought, I'll just fix one thing. If I could do that, take one step toward restoring functionality, the contours wouldn't be dead. They would only be temporarily disabled. So I crawled off the bed and began hunting for the one fixable thing, but I couldn't find it. Weeks passed. I had an epiphany. I was on my stomach straining to reach some titanium pieces that had somehow wound up under the bed and thought, these are just metal. I guess that doesn't sound very revelatory. But it was. I stared at these pieces which had once been the core of my fingers, and they didn't look like part of me. I sat up. I would never put the contours back together. I had none of that now. Previously this had been paralyzing fear. But I mostly felt relief. Part of me still wanted to fix them, to try one more time, but it was a small receding part. I looked down and thought, I'm a mess. I had damaged Lola. Maybe she had left. Someone was bringing me food and listening outside the door, but that could have been Dr. Angelica. I pulled open the door. Fresh air hit me like a slap. A piece of paper lay on the corridor, clipping from a made trade supplies catalog. It was an advertisement for an arc welder. It was one of Lola's handwriting. For you in the garage. I was still there when she reappeared at the top of the corridor. Oh, she said, well, I heard you needed one. It took me a while to get. She shifted from one foot to the other. I hope it's the right kind. I croaked a low, pathetic sound. I'm sorry. It's all right, Lola said. It's okay, Charlie. As I entered the bath, a film of grease peeled away from my skin, forming a swirling Mandelbrot slick. I was the center of a galaxy of sweat and dissolving dirt. I hadn't realized how badly I stank. You could get used to anything. Your brain complained only about change. Lola began to wash me. I could not really believe the lack of vindictiveness. I hadn't known this about love, that you did not need to deserve it. I thought there was a set of criteria, like a good sense of humor and looks and wealth. You can compensate for deficiencies in one area with excellence in another, hence rich, ugly men with beautiful wives. But there was an algorithm involved. That's why I thought I was unloved. I didn't score highly enough. I made some attempts to improve my score and also told myself I didn't care because if that was what women wanted, something fake and temporary, I'd rather be alone. And sometimes I was just lazy and would rather code things, but here I was soaking in a bath of my own filth, Lola scrubbing my shoulders, and what algorithm could explain that? What problem was so haunting? Lola laughed and came back with a set of prosthetic legs, like the day we'd first met. She rested them against the wall. Now, these are nothing special. She had crutch-like poles and plastic buckets. They were prosthetics for war veterans abandoned by the government. They were all Angelica could get without arousing suspicion. Oh, I said, they're basic, I know. They're not like they're really basic, but they're something. Thanks. She smiled. Want to try them on? The straps were frayed and worn, dark in patches. A lot of amputated thighs and thread into these. The sockets were loose in some places and strangling tight in the others. When I slid the plastic around my thighs, the tissue wailed. I used nano needles, not gross pressure. It felt like fitting a glove into my eyeball. I belted the strap around my hips. I slung an arm over Lola's shoulder, and she helped lever me upright. I couldn't sit in the sockets like the contours. I had to move them as if they were on stilts. They were stilts. I took a step, hanging off Lola, and sideswiped the wall with a rubber toe, leaving a black mark. That's okay, she said. Keep trying. The sockets were filling with blood, I was sure. By the fourth step, I noticed my body liked it. My thighs didn't like it. My thighs hated me, but my brain was feeding me endorphins, pleased to be moving. This is what you're supposed to do. My brain was not an intellectual. It took pleasure in simple things like doing walks and hard work. Maybe it had a point. It was probably just the endorphins, but suddenly it seemed possible to live like this. Perhaps Lola and I could build anonymous lives in some tiny Canadian snow town. Lola could bake pies. I could grow vegetables. I would be the man with no legs and the half-hand blues as scientist once. The townspeople would find me aloof but grow to respect me. They would call me Doc. Lola lowered me into a low toilet seat. That was awesome, Charlie. That was an insanely good first effort. She reached for a buckle. Again. Her eyebrows jumped. Are you sure? She clapped her hands. That's the spirit, Charlie. That's the spirit. Night fell. I won't recount the whole sweating, groaning ordeal. Let's just say that one of the most horrible experiences of my life. I speak as someone who's crushed his legs in an industrial plant. The problem was I went to bed with no parts. It was just me and Lola curled inside my arm, and this seemed doable with the lights on, but as soon as silence fell, I knew it was a mistake. I lay there staring at the ceiling. I felt a crawling, not painful, but there. I tried to write it out. I thought about other things, like whether Carl would find me, or what he thought he might do if he did. The crawling escalated to pains. I twitched, and Lola's head came up. Her eyes glittered in the darkness. It's okay, I said, but I wanted her to know I was lying. Do you want to put your legs on? I shook my head. I chewed my teeth. At midnight, we switched on the light and strapped me into the war veteran legs. The relief was immediate. I massaged their stark poles with shaking fingers and felt invisible muscles loosening. Lola snuggled into me. I closed my eyes. I woke screaming. My legs were inflating, stretching. My thighs were on fire. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Lola scrambled for the light. I grabbed at the poles, willing my brain to realize they were there. But that wasn't the problem. I knew it immediately. It wasn't that I didn't have legs. It was that I didn't have contours. My baseline had changed. I needed my real artificial legs. I'll get the nerve interface matched, said Lola. No, I whimpered. Not yet. Morning was better. Lola padded off to the shower, clad in a borrowed t-shirt that said Dino Roar. I tried walking on war veteran legs by myself. I staggered into the corridor, taking huge toddler-like steps, bouncing off the walls. There were no dogs around. I should have noticed that. He has. It was Lola. She had detoured to the living room for some reason. You'll see. You bought him a freaking welder. You're enabling him. Dr. Angelica, of course. I swear to God, Lola, if this ends with you in pieces, he's trying. You'll see. Try to get to the garage, I bet. He's using those stupid legs. He's changed. He hasn't. They never do. I formed a smug little plan. I would totter out there on my pole legs. Dr. Angelica would be surprised. Lola would glance at her legs, see, and I would be all, what? I got one pole in front of the other. As I reached the end of the corridor, I attained balance and entered the living room, actually walking, albeit stiff-backed and goggle-eyed like a zombie. Lola and Dr. Angelica turned. It was perfect. Then I stepped on a dog. Biggles. I had never heard a more piercing sound, and I've worked in metals fabrication. Dr. Angelica rushed at me, her fingers cooked into claws. I looked down and saw a dog. Biggles, I guess, trapped under the rubber toe of the pole. Mostly it seemed to be Biggles' blue vest, but he was making a hell of a noise, so maybe some of Biggles was there too. I tried to raise my leg, but snagged on his fur coat. Then I was off balance, could do nothing but pivot. Dr. Angelica's shriek reached a new pitch of outrage. It possibly looked like I was grinding on the dog. She banged into me with her shoulder. I hit the floor in a tangle of poles. When I levered myself up, Dr. Angelica was cradling Biggles in her arms. Biggles licked her face, whimpering. I realized they had planned this dog, the pack mind, had spit Biggles to throw himself under my poles. He was a suicide bomber. I looked around for furry faces I knew would be watching through the dark doorway somewhere. It's a setup. In retrospect, I should have kept this theory to myself. Biggles did it on purpose. Dr. Angelica hit me. You would think a surgeon would be careful about using her hands as blunt instruments, but she let me have it. Her nails raked my cheek. On all sides came yakking and shrieking. Dogs screamed out of the walls. Biggles hit my finger. Get out, Dr. Angelica screamed. Get out, you a-hole, get out. Stop hitting him, said Lola. The dog's yowling melded with Dr. Angelica's enraged screams and Lola's shrieks until I couldn't tell one from another. At Better Future, I once attended a demonstration of song-based non-lethal weaponry, and what came out of that gun did not sound as bad as this. I wrapped my arms around my head. Pain exploded in my kidney. I looked up. Dr. Angelica had kicked me. She stared down at this moment. I was glad she did not have a scalpel. Lola grabbed a fistful of hair. Dr. Angelica shrieked. She swung a looping punch at Lola, and Lola ducked. And they stood a few feet apart, shocked at each other or themselves. Dr. Angelica clutched Biggles tight and ran out of the room. A train of little dogs trotted after her. One looked back at me before it disappeared and sensed them gloating. The bedroom door slammed. God, said Lola. She looked at me and then closed the door. God. I began levering myself up. That was an accident, Lola blinked. Of course, she came over and helped me onto the sofa. You're scratched. Let me see that finger. Biggles can't be hurt, too, if he can bite like that. Shh. I shushed. In the silence, I heard Dr. Angelica muttering to her dog. She's going to kick us out, isn't she? I don't know. Dr. Angelica's voice rose. It sounded strident. I had never heard her talk to the dogs like that. How could you think you would deliberately step on Biggles? I said nothing. Nobody understands you, Lola said. Dr. Angelica said, Swoon. Is she on the phone? We listened. Now there was a silence, but I knew that Dr. Angelica had done. I could almost hear it, the white band with the Better Future logo on its side. I struggled to my feet, my pulse, a standing position. I got upright. Where are Angelica's car keys? What? Her car keys. I managed to step in another and made it to the kitchen doorway. Why would you want Angelica's car keys? This was a difficult question to answer without elevating Lola's heart rate. Everything elevating Lola's heart rate would be bad, but it could lead to an electromagnetic pulse, a dead car, and no way out. I had to execute the world's calmest escape. I spotted them on the counter and scooped them up. Let's go to the garage. Why? I feel like a drive. Lola stared. You want the welder. What? No. Angelica was right. She put her hands on her forehead. I'm so stupid. Her eyes popped open. Do you love me? I mean, even a little? What? You never said it. I felt surprised, but she was right. I guess I assumed it was obvious. Oh. Oh? I mean, I love you. It sounded bad, even to me. You know. How am I supposed to know that? From observation, I tried to spread my arms, but I was holding crutches. I almost died trying to get you out of the building. What other hypothesis better fits available evidence? Schizophrenia? I bit my lip because I was workable. Lola stared. We are going to walk past the welder and get in the car. Come see. Benoit, just come, please now.